Jiva Korja, hello everybody. Welcome to another Fireside Chat. This is Fireside Chat 57, where I'm in conversation with a member of the Order of Bards, Ovates and Druids. So I'm coming to you from Kilkenny and it's the evening. So good morning to you or good afternoon or wherever you are in the world. So I see we've got Sherry from New York and Julie from cold London. It's not so bad here, about 7 degrees. Lisa from Washington, Stephanie from Utah. Hazy but sunny, aren't you lucky? And Tara from New York and NYC, Bournemouth, loads of America, Florida. Darkest Elmer Ends. I think it's the greatest place name. That's Ricky. And Ulster and Hampshire and Belgium, Yorkshire, lovely. Wonderful to see you all. And hi, Gunter from Switzerland, the snowy mountains, beautiful. And Nova Scotia, wow, Austria. So it's just lovely to see so many people. Tallahassee, Florida. Hi, Ken, that's lovely. Philip, Crouch End, great place names. Sussex, still hanging on, autumn is, that's from York. Lovely. I think winter has arrived here. So welcome to another Fireside Chat. And this evening we are going to Berlin. So let me introduce you to my guest this evening. And this is a big welcome to Floriana Rubino. And you will know from her accent that she's not German. Welcome, Floriana.
Thank you, Eimear. It's lovely to be here with you. Thank you so much.
So just tell us a little bit about yourself, because I know you're living in Germany, but you're Sicilian. So just tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yes, so I'm 42 and I've been living in Berlin since 13 years now.
Okay.
But originally I'm from Catania, from Sicily, and I've been traveling quite a lot and having quite a dual life between Berlin and then Sicily in the last years. So it's been quite interesting, and it will be more more traveling for sure.
So what's Berlin like?
Well, what I really like of Berlin is, first of all, that it's very green. And what caught my attention at the beginning when I moved was coming from Rome, because I lived 7 years in Rome where I studied, that it was there was no kind of anthropic pressure. There was so much space, and people were having their space, walking in the streets. Because coming from 7 years in Rome where I studied, it was a completely different kind of city, full of people, full of jammed. So the first impression I got was of this green, a lot of green spaces, and a lot of space in between people, and also a lot of creativity and artistic scenes, and very open-minded, very diverse and very open-minded in terms of cultures. You can find anything in Berlin, and it's and there's a lot of acceptance, a lot of tolerance and curiosity, generally speaking, towards each other. So it was that was what I really loved. Well, of course, the first impression was the first winter was like I'm gonna die here, because I got the first winter back in the days. It was like minus 15, 18 for 2 weeks, and the sky was not like in the movie, the sky over Berlin. It was like white for months. Unfortunately, climate change changed that, because we haven't experienced those kind of heavy winters, but yeah, quite different from Sicily, then Rome, and everything before.
Because there's a number of people from Catania here. I don't know how they knew you were coming on. So it must have been very, very psychic. But anyway, so because I know you live between the two, so how does the landscape in Sicily compare? with and how do you navigate the two, given that they're very different?
Well, I can appreciate a kind of totality of landscapes. It's like I can have all the seasons and enjoy all the seasons because mainly in Sicily you have, unless you go up to the Etna and the Nebrodi park or the park, so you go a bit higher above the sea level, you have almost, you go from summer to spring and then a weird winter. So now it's changing a bit tropical with the changes in the climate in the last years. And so you have I always say that it's like always Beltane, always Beltana in Sicily, because the energy of this of the sun and the flowers and the blue sky, everything is shiny, is so full of light, and that energy probably is too much for the people. I don't know, because it's always that kind of explosive, like the volcano energy. And then when I come to Berlin, I have more, this Nordic feeling of being, of going inside with nature, of even the trees that here are more are common, like yew trees, for example, I would find in Sicily, but only in special places where I need to drive maybe 2 hours, 3 hours as a pilgrimage just to go and meet them. Here, they're common, and so they're part of the landscape. So it's a different kind of personality, let's say, of the land. Here, it's more going inside for me, more, on an inner journey. And then in Sicily, it's really, expressing and exploring. Definitely the landscape has got a lot of influence on me, I have to say. It's so I'm kind of enjoying having the full spectrum of the seasons, and see how they reflect on me and what they bring me.
Wonderful. So, what brought you to Druidry?
What brought me to Druidry? Okay, well, I didn't know it was called Druidry, first of all. I didn't even know there was a name for it. But yeah, since I was a child, I was kind of I don't want to say I was in my world, because I've always been very, very social and very engaged with the kids, or with my studies, with everything. But there was a part of me that was very, very private and very important, where I always felt completely drawn in a dialogue with the natural world. Be it animals, like the first book I asked my parents was, buy me an encyclopedia of the animals.
Oh, wonderful.
My first book was like an encyclopedia of all animals existing. And I was always rescuing animals anywhere I was, like from frogs, anything I could find. My mom every time was finding me with a new kitten, a new dog, something new, a new frog, a new bird, and she was like, "Okay, again." And I was doing things like completely natural. It was my space of, for example, waking up at sunrise, waiting for the sun to come up. And then greeting the sun, greeting the flowers, the plants. For me, this was my way of feeling, I don't know, the magic maybe of life, and I really spent a lot of time in this I call it dialogue. And then, as I grew up, of course, there were also experiences in these that were kind of very spiritual and so-called psychic as I grew up, and that were not so funny back in the days. Actually, but that's something that I experienced together with my brother and also my parents. I mean, it was a particular house, let's put it this way. And little by little, there was this contrast between the beauty of the spirits of nature that I could, dialogue with during the day, and then the other part of, let's call it, the shadow world that was coming up maybe at night with other kinds of beings wanting to talk or being acknowledged, or memories of places that were overlapping, and that was all terrifying, to be honest, for me as a child, for many reasons. First of all, because in this society, in the West, or in a Catholic country where, there's not really as much diversity in explaining how things are, that was not really seen very, very well. So I kind of shut down. Me and my brother, we really had common experiences together, and we reacted very differently. I shut down for many years because I was terrified by this aspect. But then the call from nature kept on coming back every time, every year, until it kind of came back to very strong. When I was 18, I found a couple of books, one about the goddess. And when I read the word goddess, I was like, goddess? I like it. Really? Something like goddess? It's not only the stuff you study at school and you do mythology. Actually, there's something related to spirituality, nature, and goddess. And so it was the start, I have to say. I started to and it was quite interesting because in Italy I didn't really find many books or people like more than 20 years ago to discuss this part of my spirituality and nature. But from there, little by little, I found Philip's books, and then I got more in a different way into the things that I always loved, like the trees, the animals, the mythology that I was not understanding how they were presenting it at school. I have to say, so little by little, when I was 18, I started to celebrate the seasons, celebrate the cycles, and I found back the path through nature and to myself, and definitely that started to change, a lot of things, because it started to call that place where you don't really, when I became very, at the beginning I became very critical of what I was seeing in outside of me, because it was like suddenly you have a new lens and you realize how much let's say cultural dogmatism can be put on society, and then one thing got to another, and then there was the start. I followed nature and on a parallel, with my normal life and my normal studies and my normal ordinary work, that brought me back to going more into healing, naturopathy, music, all the things that really makes my life passionate. And so this is when I discovered there was a word.
So when you were doing those ceremonies and those at 18, did you have a framework, or had you joined the order at that point, or is that when you started reading Philip's books, or did that come later?
Yeah. No. No, I started basically experimenting back in the days with the books, and I was And then little by little, like friends were kind of gathering. Oh, but that's cool. Let's celebrate together. Oh, but and then there was a kind of a circle that that developed in Catania, and then I moved to Rome. Anyway, things changed, and I have to say, I never thought of joining the order, never, until life got me to look at it very strongly.
Oh.
And because basically what happened to me in the course of my life experiences is that I had in 2017 what people would call the dark night of the soul.
Yeah.
Where I experienced in the arch of 1 year, passing from living your best dream to having turned into your worst nightmare. So experiencing, without going into details, experiencing in a very few months tough decisions, deep losses, letting go, opening your eyes, call it all of the above in a very concentrated period of time. So it was a period of my life where I really got kind of disintegrated at all levels. What, like my teachers called it my shamanic crisis. I thought it was just going through like an atomic bomb, and then seeing the particles of myself, just floating somewhere, And in that moment, it was very interesting, because in that moment, so the pivotal point was July, and in July 2017, and in August 2018, I was in Sardinia for megaliths, and just trying to get my head out. It's when you're in the process of grief and grieving, and you're trying to get out, and I had a dream. I had a powerful dream where Philip was with another druid, and they were examining the state of my heart with a cannula from my foot. They were like making sure that like sustaining that everything was fine. And I was really shocked, because first of all, a lot of questions came to my mind. Like, okay, I read the books, but I'm not a fan. It's interesting. The Druid oracles I've been using, but I read and practiced on many other things. So I was like, okay. But then what really that really got my attention, and then the fact that it was very poignant for what I was experiencing, because I was really in that kind of state. So really, it was like a mirror to see how I was, inside, because I had a heartbreak, and I was in that kind of state, and this healing, and this understanding, and this support that came from Philip and this unknown druid
In the dream.
Yeah. So I was like, okay. Okay, let's write it down. Interesting. But I didn't really give so much importance, but I said, okay, maybe I should look again at some at something on some druid path books, whatever. But then after 2 weeks, I went to Crete. I went to Crete on a pilgrimage with other women and researchers and scholars about the matriarchal parts and the goddess and all the beautiful caves, and really I love Crete. And there, who do I meet? Never met in my life. we were 4 people, and one of my traveling companions that was more closer to me was a druid of the order from the States.
Ah.
Yeah. And I was like, and she started to talk to me about the order and the path and how important and nourishing and life illuminating was studying the course. And then I was like, and then she looks at me and she like, I think you would like it. I'm like, I think she's trying to tell me something in this moment. You know, when you feel cornered,
Yes.
but in a good way. So I felt kind of cornered, and because in all this like a death and rebirth process that I was living in the year, one thing that I really learned, because events forced me to learn, was to really listen to science, really listen to your own spirit, the way it was trying to communicate, really listen to my dreams and my intuition, really listen to my conscience.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that probably I was not really doing so well before. No? This is why I got, the track, just, you have to see that. And so I will always be grateful to. I mean, we stayed in contacts and with friends. I mean, of course, she lives in the other part in the States, in the other part, but that was really pivotal. And then, so I decided when I came back to Berlin, I decided in October around Samhain to join.
Mm-hmm.
And because I really wanted to listen to what my spirit, my soul, call it how you want, was trying to communicate me, and it was incredible, because I, after probably like 1 week that I was watching a TV The Druid with Philip, I just say, hey, hi from Berlin, and I got contacted immediately by Bianca,
Yes.
and oh yeah, we're from Berlin. I was like, okay, and so I met this amazing group of people, and things started, and then I got the wares, and then I got. When I got the poster about Druidry, I was like, of course, according to the order, because probably there are others that intend other things, but and I read that I mean, what was important for the the love of peace, the love of beauty, the love for the animals, the love. I read it every day, and I'm like, I'm in the right place. I definitely definitely. If I'm in the right place, and that was the beginning, trusting my inner voice, and then I met. I really found a lot of things since then, thanks to the order and the people. Really things that I would have not expected. So this is how I got, and I never thought about it, because looking, at pictures or videos with people dressed weird, I thought, I don't want to do that. I'm fine. I must. So anyway, but just to make fun of it, but that's how I got into the order and meeting incredible people.
Oh, that's wonderful. That's absolutely wonderful. So you mentioned that dark night of the soul. So I mean, you don't. I'm not asking you for details, but what was it about the teachings that brought you through that dark night?
Yeah.
And what insights did you get from?
Yeah. Well, the insights were many. First of all, that what the so-called ego thinks you're meant to do, or you're meant to have in your life, maybe is part of conditioning, of external conditioning. So if when the John Fortune used to say that we pray the gods with the heart, no? So I thought, okay, all the times I asked, the universe, the spirit, call it as you want. I want to be, I want to express my full potential in this life. I want to express, a full life of what I'm supposed to do and what is the reason why I'm here and all these questions. So I thought that all those questions deserved an answer that probably I was not able to see. I was not able to look at. I was not ready. I had other methods. I don't know. So the first thing that the dark night of the soul brought me was to the question, who am I really?
Okay.
The second was, and everything that was not in the scope of what really I discovered afterwards really makes my heart beat, my life vibrant and happy, was really not in that part of my life. The second thing I learned was, of course, having to deal with mortality, and no matter how much sensitive or psychic you can be, relating with others, when it touches you personally on a personal level, it is another thing. It is another thing. It's like I felt like I had to go through this kind of spiritual initiation from the innocence of the virgin, goddess or whatever, to the crone, mother and crone, to experience all of them. And I was in the crone phase, like going to the underworld, face your worst fear manifested, really concrete, and dissolve yourself there and see if you can come back. See if you can come back. So what I learned is that you can come back. And what I learned is that you need to go through every piece of it. That there's no discount. There's no discount. That the only way out is through, as also we learn in the course, that it doesn't matter how much excruciating can be. It doesn't matter how much you really need to go through every piece of the experience, because only doing this and not putting it in a cupboard. Okay, no, I'm gonna look at that another time, or no, I don't want to see that, because some practices, some spiritual practices, some meditation practices I've seen also on other people, or can kind of smoke mirror the pain or the hard things. They can just put them down, and but they're there in the subconscious, and you don't deal with it now. So what I learned also through the words and the path and what was happening to me was like, go through every piece of it, because when you go through every piece of it, when you come out, you are really a new person. You are a more authentic version of yourself. You fall in love with life. You fall in love with everything that ever happened to you, because you understand that if it wasn't for that, you could have never been so strong. You could have never been so empathetic, compassionate. You could have never ever started something that you were meant. So what I learned is that to honor every cycle of our life, like the seasons, and that for me in that moment, going back to nature and to the just listen and listen and find myself for me, nature became more and more the greatest teacher, because I did not see anymore myself or experience myself anymore separate from anything. And I don't know how to explain. It's like many things changed on a conscious. I came back from that experience, like, of course it took me a good a couple of years of intense work, really intense work, from soul retrieval, shamanic stuff, just call it. But at the end, yeah, I mean, it's like life got more vibrant and more colored. I don't know, and the feeling and the deep happiness of sharing anything that could come that I got, like sharing with others and
with like-minded people.
Yeah, with like-minded people, but also with people that was looking for that, whatever that was. I did, like, just, I don't know how to explain. I work a lot with in workshops with people that never had any experiences, but a deep spiritual calling and a deep relationship with nature. People that have no idea, and I really love doing workshops open in this sense, where you start with this longing of sense of connection, this voice that you hear inside of you, but then you don't know how to deal with it, brain conditioning, rationality, self-judgment, all the things that can come and interrupt the dialogue. And then at the end, I give tools. For me, I work mainly shamanically, so with tree spirits and mainly and plants and animal spirits, and then get them to experience by themselves without intermediation that nature. And we are a community on a bigger level. We are not only a human community, but we are a community with everything alive and everything visible and non-visible. So that it depends where we look at, where we want to find support, where we want to find the teachings, knowledge, peace. It's really this starting to, what happened to me, what happened to me, but in a gentle way. with a bit of playing, and so this is what came out. Of course, in those years, I was not looking at it in this way. I was like, why me?
It's interesting. There's a lot of there are lots of wonderful comments from people. I'd just like to share them with you. Wait a second. I think, yeah, Stephanie says, going through grief and trauma is probably the biggest test we receive in life. And Druidry is a wonderful place to find peace and comfort. And then Franny says, how do you do that, though? It's terrifying. And of course it is. And then Sarah says, thank you very much for your story. So much of it is familiar to me and gives me a calm feeling for the truth of what you're saying. And then Philippa says, so many people try to cover up grief. They take antidepressants. Grief is natural, not nice, but going through it, facing it, sharing is important. Otherwise, I think it comes out in other unhealthy ways. And then Anne says, I think it's one step at a time, accepting what is happening, refusing to give up, and above all, opening up to the support from the natural world and spiritual communities. At least that is how it was for me. It was the sense of connection that mattered most. Franny, I hope some of these answers might offer you something. Yeah, and Jamie says it absolutely manifests into blockages that you will need to work on releasing later anyway. It's hard but necessary. I think it'll hit you anyway. I think what you're saying is, and I think a number of our viewers are saying that all you'll do is defer it, and then it'll come out in another way that maybe not the healthiest way. But it does take a lot of courage to go through it. And you say, and I know this myself, is when you're in the middle of it and the pain, it's like very hard to stand by and say, oh, this is wonderful. I'm really gaining insights, because what you're doing is feeling the pain and you don't know when you're going to come out of it. So I remember somebody telling me the story of the room of the 1,000 fears.
Mm.
And I've used this with my work with clients, that I someplace in Tibet, and I don't know if it's a story, so maybe it's true, maybe it's not true. Every 100 years, the monks get a chance to gain enlightenment by going through the room of the 1,000 fears. So they're told two things. Keep walking once you enter the room, and remember all those fears are inside your head. So the monks who remember those two rules, come through and come out the other end enlightened. Those who don't have to come back out and wait another 100 years to go through the room. But there's that thing that these fears are in your head, and it's about going through. Keep going. And obviously that's what you did.
I mean, yeah, more. It's. I mean, I didn't. It was not about fears at that point of my life. It was about really like the distraction of what you thought you were meant to do, and like really when you deal with loss and things like this, it's like in that moment it's like you feel like your life gave you something and then
took it away,
and then after 4 months takes away something else, and then takes away. It's like like in Anna, the goddess in Anna, that had to go into the underworld and had to remove leave 7 jewels until she was naked. No, it's like it was like okay, this you don't need really, but I loved it so much. This you don't really, but how is it possible? It was and yeah, I think it's we have to we have all of us as a path, and I really think that without a spiritual perspective, certain things are really incomprehensible, and therefore are really difficult to assimilate as a growth experience. And we live in a society where, I mean, I'm lucky because I always since I was a child, I always listened to that incorruptible part of myself. But I was like, well, this. But I realized that how much the difficulty that that people in this common society can find when the spirit is separate from matter, from the body, from life, that we are like individualized, fragmented, and everything is looked like a dead thing, like a tree is just an object, an animal who inferior, like this mentality creating fragmentation also really does not help. So Druidry is all lived in this sense as a earth-based embodied spirituality, is a lifesaver lived in this way, because it brings all the pieces back, that and it makes understand how you are in a constant dialogue. You're in a constant part of everything, and you just need to find your own way to find your keys, your way to relate to it. I also love the fact that that there's no that there are guidance in terms of support within the order, but there's not a hierarchy, because they would have really no, not all the difference of re-empowering yourself with these tools that you're given, and that you become mature. You are supported into your maturity of taking responsibility for your own life, for what you want to seek in your life, how you want to look at it at your pace, with your life experience, where you come from, and definitely in this sense is definitely revolutionary.
You use a phrase that I love. You said listening to that incorruptible part of yourself.
Yeah.
And I think that's such a gift if we can listen to that incorruptible part, because when all around us is telling us something else, but there's that other part inside, that little voice that says what it is, and to trust, because that can often be the biggest challenge, is to listen to it when everything around you is telling you something else. And it's I think it's around that deep sense of trust of yourself and trust in life and trust in the process.
Yeah, no, like you say, that's one of the things that makes the difference, I think, because I always wondered why. I was the kid that was asking 1,000 whys since I was a child. I was like, why, mom, why this, why that? I always wanted to know the why. No?
Yes.
And I've always asked myself, but what is the difference? Why? Some people go in a direction and others go in another way. What is the nature of choice? You know, because there's a choice behind everything. The choice of not choosing, the choice of anything. And thanks to those years, one of the answers I got was always the willingness to take courage and go through it. And sometimes you don't really you don't really have a choice, because sometimes life pushes you in a direction that you cannot just look on from the other direction. So you are confronted, and you need to look at that, and you need to find again that incorruptible part of yourself that will bring you back to a better life, and if people just hold on to that strength, to that voice, to that heart, and go through, that's the anchor that brings you back to everything. Yeah.
Wonderful. Francine says, I've taken antidepressants for over 10 years. It helps to cope. And I think it's important that it's not about antidepressants do have a place, but there's always something missing. That's interesting. I'm currently in the process of getting to the root of my issues. This is a very interesting conversation. I'm still trying to learn who I really am. Welcome to the club, Francine. And Druid feels right for me. I feel a connection. And then Marcus says, so wonderful hearing all the shared experience and compassion. Hopefully we can get to the state where we recognize our fears, turn into our guides and opportunities. And I think that's a really, really important one. And then that requires a lot of trust in the moment when you're in that mess and in that pain, is to trust that actually there's something in this.
Yeah, and also to keep moving, and to keep moving, because but to move in the direction where you feel that your passion is, really find the anchor, everything that was like a gift to you, like it's really nature, like everything appeared to be there just for me all of a sudden, but I'm here to enjoy all this, or the passions that you have in there's a beautiful sentence, a phrase, a quote, I don't remember now exactly, but it was saying that like 4 things that will really change your life forever. And like art, music, love will keep your life full of passion and vibrancy, and loss. So
Yes.
like while the first 3, so love, art, and music, will keep your life passionate and vibrant and joyful, allow loss to make you courageous. That is the sense, no? And that really resonated with me, because I started to to really take the Guernsey seriously, and blank, like in German say langsam, very very slowly, and really I wanted to get all the nectar out of it, or the practices. And then I did a list of all the things I really wanted to do in my life, like bucket list, places to visit, like modern matriarchal studies, shamanism, everything. I just put the list, like, okay, this is gonna be my life. From now on, music, drums, everything. Like, we made a list. This is gonna be my life, and that's it. You need to keep moving. You can't just stay there and drawn. I mean, I did it, of course, and drawn into the grief and and the gothic music that I like, and the tragic poetry, like in insisting and indulging in that pain, in the drama, and feeling, some character coming from a book of the romantic period, Goethe or stuff, that's kind of indulging at a certain point. It's like, okay, enough, enough. So, I mean, of course, that kind of tastes remain and they're part of me, but I kind of, developed the other side, the light side, and like in the Tao, and humor will save my life forever. This is also another thing that I got out.
Someone comment on your laugh, your wonderful laugh. So when you talk about, following your passions, so do you, when you mentioned workshops you're doing, is that your living? Is that your main source of living? Or is that what you do part-time, or what?
Yeah, but no, okay. So I have my ordinary job is something else. My ordinary job, I'm a workers' counselor. It's a kind of political figure that exists in Germany and maybe some other countries, in different ways in Europe, where I'm elected to represent the workers' rights, and then specialize on some topics. Like I really love like topics against harassment and bullying and mobbing at the workplace, and the especially in international setting. So defending the cultural diversity, and this was my kind of natural development according to my studies, because I studied political science and international relations in Rome, and then I did some other postgraduate courses and in diplomacy, international economics, international law. So that kind of followed the ordinary course of my life. Mm-hmm. And which I enjoy very much. I mean, I've always been I'm an activist, more in environmental and issues. I did my thesis at university was about the European environmental law regarding the protection of biodiversity, especially of the forests in Europe. And then I started to when I did the postgraduate in economics, I really wanted to see how economics was actually, impacting the world. I'm a big fan of Vandana Shiva, and so that kind of followed that pattern. And I've always been into human rights also. I had the opportunity let's say to get 2 scholarships to the UN, to New York, to the United Nations. Yeah, always in peacekeeping and and against xenophobia, related intolerances, racism. So coming to Germany and Berlin, little by little, all these things kind of in a weird way, like with the Y, got all together in the puzzle, and I found myself into cooperating with the trade union, and so it's been that is also a part of my passion, that is so far. So I'm happy to be useful. That's for sure. That's for sure.
Else, Anne loves Vandana Shiva. Can you tell us a little bit about Vandana Shiva? You said you're a fan of this person.
Yeah. Vandana Shiva basically is. I mean, there's a lot to say about her, and it's too complex at the moment to say all of it. But what I really admire of her, this Indian economist, a woman economist, is that she's tackling the problem of the land, agriculture, and the seeds. So she supports the seed saving movements, and of course she explains very well what's behind all the agricultural policies, all the GMOs, and the distortion that starts with destroying and manipulating basically nature for profit, and then creating a chain of damages, not only to nature and the species and the animals and the communities and the countries. She's very, very clear about it, and she's been an advocate for especially the seed saving movements, and she's been an inspiration to me. I'm actually working on a project in Sicily. This is why I'm kind of dual in my life, where I'm setting up a center community where I can experience, and I can give the experience of how on different layers of life and community things can be done differently. And one of these aspects, of course, is economy, or I mean, economy in sense, what is what is the system we use? I'm not talking about economy in this, really in the purest term of the sense of the term, and the seed saving. The protection of the plants and the seeds that are autochthon, that are indigenous to a land, and that they bring the power and the force of the land and the biodiversity and the soul and the character is fundamental. So I'm making up a project together with some amazing people that I found that promote permaculture. They are permaculturists, and one of them is really into the seeds, and this is something for me very important.
Mm-hmm. Wow, I mean, you have so many interests and so many passions. I just want to respond to Angela. I wish people would stop telling other people that they don't need their antidepressants once they've completed some kind of work. I did say earlier, Angela, that antidepressants do have their place. So I would hate to think that you were being criticized, or that people who take antidepressants are being criticized here. That is not what this conversation is about. So yeah, they do have a role. So I just want to acknowledge that, as I did say that earlier. So it's just people have different journeys, and some go that way and others don't. So, but it's all without judgment. Just wanted to say. So you've got your we don't do that expression. Workers' counselor is a really interesting one, and then you're interested in following Vandana Shiva's work. And then you have there are a lot of people here. There are a lot of fans of her work as well. Someone says, it was wonderful to read work Making Peace with the Earth. Isn't that lovely? With the women in rural India who protected trees by actually hugging them. And I remember seeing photographs of that and refusing to be dragged away. And those trees are still there and still loved, apparently. Isn't it wonderful when activists go and to protect something and they win, because so often they don't, and it's lovely to know that actually when we do stand up, that so often that we can win, that even though it's a really hard one.
Yeah, no, this is also something that we need to how can I say, to experience it and trust it. Because so many changes can be done by a community that it's unthinkable. I mean, if one, I always think about the butterfly. If one butterfly can be heard on the other side, the effect of the planet. Imagine when a group of people with the same goal. Of course, I mean, it's not hopefully the goal is noble.
Yes.
Is together, of course, can make a change. But what I've noticed in my personal experience is that the more you are a sensitive person, and the more you and the more sometimes they try to I mean, like community, society, it can kind of discourages you. And it's really important to find a way to with like-minded, with the kindred spirits, to do a little bit, but then you see that things change, or anyway they change for you and change for the small your community, and it's enough. It's enough, because maybe this can create an example. You don't know where things are going, but the important thing is that you locally, for your community, you are doing something. What you can do where you arrive, where you draw a point, you draw on a point. I don't know. We have this saying in Italy that we arrive, where you arrive, you just put a point and that's it, and be content with yourself. So yeah, I have I'm still following that long list, like the things I like to do in my life.
But Bianca is here and she says, it's amazing what you've achieved and experienced even over the few years. I personally know you. What an exciting journey, Floriana Rubino.
I love Bianca. Lots of love.
And then Hannah says she agrees. We have a community to protect our canal, and we have achieved so much so far. That's wonderful to hear that when people get together. And I think so much can be achieved in solidarity.
Yes. Yes.
It's very hard to do anything on your own, but I think having a community to say, we're going to mind our land, our river, or our trees, or whatever it is, or the canal, or the lake, or whatever.
Or the animals.
Yeah. Or the animals, yeah. But it is in solidarity and coming together. And community. And community is so, so important.
Definitely. So yeah, when I'm not,
go on.
No, sorry. No. I was trying to answer the question. So when I'm not doing the workers' counselor, when I'm not, all serious, I'm never too serious anyway. So I'm never too serious. I go home and have my shamanic practice. I take my drum and I work with clients. I mean, and so this is another service that I offer. Otherwise, things don't work. That was part of those 2 years. They were like, okay, actually, you need to do things that you haven't done. So and that's really where my heart finds true happiness, because when I see the light coming back in people's eyes, I know what it means. I know what it means because I was there, and that gives me the greatest joy to share and to do what I can do. I mean, the rest is personal responsibility, as always. So that really gives me a lot of learning. I learn all the time with every experience, and for me, every person I meet in this sense, and I support is another teaching, is another lesson, is another adventure, is another thing I can be grateful for. So, and or that's really the best for me. Or when I take I mean, I love doing workshops in nature because it's the best, like going in Sicily, in this place where I'm creating together with these wonderful people, little by little, this dream coming true, that it's growing day by day. there's a beautiful grove of walnut trees.
Oh.
The walnuts, and one of my students' friends, I don't know how, of these amazing people, she said, it's like coming into a tree cathedral, like a tree cathedral, no?
Beautiful.
And that is when I go there, I feel completely at home, and I feel like I'm just a kind of a translator or a mediator, and then and I'm surrounded by the biggest teachers ever, and it's really fun. When it's really fun when we work with the trees, and when at the end of giving the tools, using shamanic journeying, and then finding your own allies, starting to train your mind, that there's much more, that the spiritual community that we, like, once people get the tools, I love putting, doing tests and having them to do these journeys with the trees. Yes. And having them to choose different trees, and asking the trees advice or information, useful information, or whatever, healing or whatever, about like a sparring companion, right? So how could the person possibly know? How would the tree push? How can I explain? It's like to test people and get this this information spiritually from interacting with the being of the tree to help the other person. So, or having this different people choosing the same tree, and then exchanging in the next episode, in the next workshop, the message is coming from this tree, the being of the tree, talking about itself, the lessons, what is its peculiarity. And I love it, because what comes out is so detailed and so poignant and so impossible to, you cannot make it up. You cannot make it up. And it's like really specific details, specific information, or the same character, the same words coming from the same being. For me, it's really a way to give tools and train into this contact that we are really. It's not about dead things or objects. That really we all are ensouled. We all have a consciousness. We all can relate. And we lost this knowledge. We lost these techniques, and we can always look at a tree and get really some great advice. And it's not made up by your mind, by your imagination. It is something that our ancestors knew, that other cultures, indigenous cultures, practice very much. That it's still alive in other parts of the world, and we lost it. We lost it in a common, in the Western society. Of course, for Druids, it's normal.
So, Holly, there's two questions here. One says, Holly, what traditions do you draw from? And then there's a question, how do you avoid cultural appropriation? There's another question, was Tom Cowan one of your teachers? No. Okay. So what traditions, you mentioned shamanic traditions, and then of course the Druidry. So
yeah. Okay. So it's another, you open another huge thing. So for me, okay, shamanism is about your relationship to spirits, okay, to the spirit of everything. So let's put it this way: there's people and scholars that think that shamanism is only in China, in the East. I'm not one of those. I think that we can find the same relationship with spirits expressed in different ways in many cultures. Of course, there are techniques that are common, others that are less common, but it's got to do all with certain practices. And we can find the embodiment of spirits or possession, call it, there are so many names. I don't want to get into the language and terminology because for me that is really not important. So I definitely found my own relationship with the spirits and how they teach me about that we are all a community anyway. And then I found also great. I found a great teacher in J. and Kestrel Lockwood in Glastonbury, with who I trained in Glastonbury for several years, and they also have a background, a very vast background from Africa, Guatemala, Mexico, Nepal. Like they also came from 30 years of their own investigation. Then I went. I found for me very, very valuable the work with the Foundation for Shamanic Studies, the so-called core shamanism that became a tradition. Even there, I don't want to go into people that terminologists, purists. The thing is, if it works, it works. I'm very pragmatic, and that's it. And from there, I went on exploring the backgrounds that called me in my personal story, in my personal. I just come from a very interesting trip to Mexico, where I had some insights on some practices there that then we can find everywhere. I was so amazed when during the ceremony of with the local shaman, and I was like, it could be just a druid, one of us. It could be, because the principle. I mean, if you are interacting with the same source, with the same Mother Nature, call it as you want, but you will always relate to the four directions, to the elements, to the female and the male, the creative power. You will always, it's there. Call it as you want.
Yes.
And I was so amazed. It was really calling when I was singing, calling the directions, the blessings with the fire and the water and the animals and the jungle answering. I was like, what's the difference, really? What's the difference? Why do we have to argue on terminology? Where is it?
I agree. I mean, I've worked in Africa, because I worked there every year for 20 years, and I have a close friend who's a healer who actually encouraged me to start holding ceremonies in my grove when I was 10 minutes in the order.
Great.
And also I've had shamanic training, and with Peruvian shamans who came here to Ireland and shared their rites. So this was the Kero. What they want to do was share, as this was a shamanic. Well, there were 3 of them in their 80s, wanting to share this with the rest of the world. So it was offered rather than appropriated. But what struck me was that working in Africa and working with healers in Africa and shamans in Peru, the colors and textures might be different, but the principles are the same. The connection, spirits, nature spirits, the land, the landscape around you, and that interconnectedness of all things. These are common threads. And, you say we lost them. But what I've discovered is that, my own journey is discovering, no, it's just waking them up again. They're not gone. They're asleep. And it's just allowing them to emerge from the landscape. And then the landscape speaks to you. So that would be my...
as you say, but also As we said, the cultural appropriation, I can understand. That if you take something that doesn't belong to you, by the book, and you just repeat it as anything, as even spirituality, or people reading books and thinking that, oh no, okay, now I'm doing magic or I'm doing whatever just because I read it, and then there's like in everything is taking something that does not belong to you in general. And as you say, at the end, what really is driving me back and back to my land is that I need to work with. I need, it's part of me, and the spirits of my land call me to work with them, for them, together. And what I'm trying to do is really to rediscover who they are, where they are, what's behind the myth, what's behind the lore, where they've been hidden, but actually they're still very, very powerful and very alive, that part of the land. So, and trying to first of all, to present myself, introduce myself, and say, okay, let's work together. Let's for life, for evolving life. Let's be creative together. And it's completely different. It is a relationship. It is really a relationship, and there's no way that I can explain, that you can explain. You just need to make the experience, open your heart, and see things happening, changing, and what people call miracles at the end, or magic in brackets. I mean, I don't want to go there into the other definition. For me, it's a dialogue. It's a dialogue. It's in this interconnection where we all are talking, communicating with each other. What does the land want? What do I want? Am I empathic? I mean, do I feel you? Or one thing, I mean, that came from some journeys with the trees that brought us to tears, because when you journey, you are 20 people journeying on the same question and asking the being of the tree, like, for a message, for a communication, and we all came with the same answer. You can just cry for being moved by the truth of it, and the energy, the warmth that is behind it. And when we got as an answer, it's very interesting. One of them said, it's very interesting that humans, you are the only species that has got this I would say, how do you call it, psychopathy between you, that you feel that you are disconnected by anything else. And that was that you are we watch over you and we think, how do you humans cope with this thing that you have, that you think that we are completely disconnected by the rest of us, of the beings of us, when we are giving, we're watching over you, we are giving you everything, shelter, and we are wondering, how is it possible? Things like this. And yeah.
But Holly, who asked the question, beautifully and powerfully answered. Thank you, from the guardian of a sacred grove in New York, near the Canadian border. Could not have had a deeper, more meaningful exploration of that very important topic. We live on traditional, I can't pronounce that. I'm so sorry. How do I know? Oh no, I'm not going to even try. Lands. So this is a vital conversation. Thank you, Holly, for that. Yeah. So we mentioned ancestors, and are all your people from? I mean, it's interesting how you from Sicilia, or Sicilia, which is
Sicilia.
Which I imagine is, well, this is the stereotype. It's a very traditional society. I could be wrong. And how you navigate that with German, living in a German culture, and you're talking about culturally so different. I imagine you're all hot and passionate in the South, and the Germans are more even and
well, I
Less dramatic, should I say?
Uh,
And these are stereotypes, of course. I'm conscious.
no. I mean, generally speaking, like staying very, very broad. Well, I mean, if I can come across as a very, after the first moments of shyness and being private, and as very, very warm and open. I don't really. But I don't know, I think I am my own person, because if I think about the common culture, for example, in Sicily, there's this thing: what would the people think of me? This fear of judgment that is a kind of everybody trying to be respectable, and a bit like I was listening to one of the songs of Dave, the Adam the Bar, Gently Johnny, really nice song. When he's got the rant, the interesting talk about how I could go and live with animals, because they don't need to be so respectable. They don't have this idea. Yeah, and I think it's I don't be respectable. I don't have it anymore. But but yeah, I see differences. For example, in from my perception, because I could be totally wrong, and I could re-establish a stereotype. I notice that in general, Germans are very, precise. They have a kind of ethic, a work ethic, and they want to do things precisely. And I become a Berliner in this sense. I'm became very punctual. I need to have my list. I need to organize myself. Otherwise, I couldn't survive. So I learned that lists are a good thing to do if you have a long bucket list for your life. That way, it doesn't work out. And I noticed that they're really good in one thing that struck me was that they're really good in social context. They really know how to have a good time.
Yes.
They really know how to have a good time in general.
And I had a good time. It's Bianca. Apologies, Bianca. She says, I would not call our Berlin Druids less dramatic. Okay. I suppose not. I always think the Germans are very organized. And I'm kind of organized, but not really. Yeah. But I'm always impressed with that organization. Yeah. I suppose of Central Europeans anyway,
Yeah. So. Probably, yeah. I think it must be the cold. I don't know what kind of sociologist. I don't know if it was Karl Popper saying there was some influence. But yeah, I mean, I don't know how people perceive me. I'm, for example, one of those people that if I really make friends and they can be there for a lifetime. And yes. But I'm also very social. If we get on the right. I don't know. I think it's really personal, and I'm kind of my own person. I don't really fit on any context apart from the order or other small groups. So
that uncorruptible part of yourself shines very brightly, so that you're able to hold your own regardless of where you are. And sometimes there's great freedom, more freedom in another environment than in your own home one. That sometimes that it's easier in your home territory to be who you are, and then sometimes it's not. It's easier to be who you are someplace else. It just depends on the circumstances.
Yeah. Now, for example, here in Berlin, there's no problem if I go to the restaurant on my own, or to a bar on my own, or to the theater on my own, but a concert or something. I like my me time. Sometimes it's easier. I go where I want, I do what I want to do. So, and as long as I have a book, I'm fine.
Yeah.
Or my dog comes with me everywhere, anywhere. Like where my dog can go, I go. It's and if I would do that in Sicily, or maybe in Italy in general, I would be looked as a loony, as an antisocial. There must be wrong with me. I don't know. I actually lived some months in Ireland. I was obsessed with Ireland when I was when I was 18. Actually, I was planning to move to Dublin. Yes,
Wow.
yes, yeah. I was planning to move to Dublin. It was my third time in Ireland. I felt this huge. I mean, I understood why, with some regressions I had, that. But anyway, I had this strong calling, and maybe there is a bit like Sicily. I have to say, I had the impression that the Irish people and the Sicilians are not so different. And there are many, yeah, not so different in many ways, like many ways. But definitely, when I go back home, they take me as a tourist. I just keep on doing what I have to do. And then they tell me something in Sicilian, and I answer in Sicilian, the language, and they're like, "Oh my God, what a terrible, Actually, she's, it is. There's some freedom here that.
So, how many languages do you speak? You speak Italian, Sicilian, German, English.
Yes.
How different is Sicilian from Italian? Is it a dialect, or is it like a different language?
Well, before it was considered a dialect, but actually the United Nations, the World Heritage UNESCO, I don't know, in this moment, maybe I drank too much mugwort, sorry. So, but anyway, the UN, to calm myself down, declared the Sicilian as an endangered language.
Okay.
As an endangered language. So, I'm trying to keep it up, and while I'm looking into, the history of my land for my projects, to keep it alive. It's really a mix, because it's been but it is basically considered an endangered language, and it's quite different. It's quite different. Yeah. So wonderful. English, German, French, Sicilian, and recently
and Italian.
Of course, Italian, and recently I'm starting to learn Spanish. Yeah,
I am impressed.
I tried to learn Irish Gaelic. I was on Conasa Tatu. That's it.
Hey, Mahu.
Conasa Tatu.
Mahu. Anyway, Ricky has a comment. I think that there's been a transfer of personality traits between Floriana's Sicilian character and Bianca's Berliner mentality by osmosis.
Well, go tell me with who you go, and I will tell you who you are. I mean, between friends, there's always some affinity, I guess.
And Bianca says, Ricky Gellison, I guess the two of us together are often more than one person can handle. It's wonderful.
Yeah, but also Ricky had an influence on me, so you shouldn't talk about Bianca.
That's wonderful. And Holly says the World Council of Indigenous Peoples recognize Sicilian as an Indigenous people and language. Okay.
Well, so apart that we're all indigenous somehow.
Oh, I know.
We are all kind of indigenous somehow, and then by the year 2021, we need to see how much layers of this being indigenous have been put on top. Like layers and layers and layers. Because also indigenous communities are very, very apart from the uncontacted ones. I mean, I'm also a modern matriarchal researcher as a reference for Agia. I love the modern matriarchal studies, and go and look. And I had the big luck to have studied with Heide Göttener Abendroth in person. It's the last course she did in person. She founded the Heide Göttener Abendroth. she founded she one of the mothers of the modern matriarchal studies.
Okay.
I mean, she's been like one of my heroines, one of my for forever, and I was really happy to train with her. And even there, studying the indigenous cultures around the world, we go through layers and layers and layers of so just how do you say, of layers of history and things that came. I mean, unless you go to an uncontacted tribe in the Amazon or in like few indigenous cultures really kept it all. I mean, it's all I mean, most of them are very much preserved, but we are all interacting, and we need to go. It's up to us to see which layers we want and which layers actually are not corresponding anymore to what we believe, feel it's right for us. No. So for me, when I think about Sicily, my mind goes to the Neolithic places. I have my preference in the layers of what is indigenous, or the caves with the rock paintings. This is where I find myself more indigenous.
So in Sicily, you have what you have cave paintings. Do you have sacred sites? What do you have there? That, going way back.
Well, in Sicily, you have all sorts of sacred sites, according to different religions and different epochs. What because it's been like a point where from Phoenicians, Greeks, Vikings, just name it. Everybody was crossing the Mediterranean, of course. Celts, like we have some incredible lore about Morgaine Le Fay and the Messina Street. Like we have some incredible lore of King Arthur on Etna. We have really interesting. Yes. One of we have yes. In one of our lores, King Arthur was buried there. So I mean, it's interesting. So we have a mix, and it's funny because it's like opening, one of these advent calendar. Okay, in which door now? I can have a look. and yeah, I mean, what I personally find the most stunning, my favorite place is called Argimusco. It's basically a plateau where you find incredible rocks carved with the shape of humans or animals, and they correspond to the horizontal line of the sky, how they are in the sky. I mean, I'm not an archaeoastronomist, but I mean, I've read some incredible stuff done by the Sicilian archaeoastronomers. But this place, it is the most. I've traveled quite a lot, and when I discovered that there was such a place in my land, I was completely blown away, because it's like walking through giants. And there's this and you see all the horizon. You see the seven sisters, the seven islands in front of you. You come there, and it feels like an initiation path, because you start going through a menhir, and then a standing stone, and then there are and then you see how you go through the eagle rock, and then there's the crow, and then you come at the end. My favorite place is this huge rock called the Virgo, or the praying goddess, or it's a huge kind of a huge mountain rock in the shape of a woman, like like this, looking at the west.
Wow.
And it's so incredible. It is so incredible. And then you go up there, and this huge rock, like it seems like the Lord of the Rings, when you have those statues that are huge. You walk towards her, and you start to see, okay, where is she looking? The west. Where is on the other side? And you start thinking, what were the ancestors trying to say? And then you go up, and you see that there's a pyramid where 7 stairs were carved in this rock. 7 stairs on this rock. And then you go up, and there's another on top of the head of this incredible rock, your goddess rock. This bath carved in the stone, where the water is always, and probably, I mean, it looks to me like a ritual bath, because it's really carved like, and from there you see in front of you the volcano, the Etna. You see on your left the point of the rising sun over the eagle, called the Rock of the Eagle. On the other side, you see the 7 sisters, and you feel like you are one among the giants, among everything, and you're nothing in the infinite, and everything is talking to you. It is an incredible place. This is my favorite place ever, and I'd love to take you there.
Well, I was just saying, because I would just so love. I'm intrigued. I'm just by what you're saying, and I'm trying to visualize it. Oh, I would absolutely love you. So yes, I've accepted your invitation, and it's been witnessed. Absolutely. I have a very soft spot for Italy, and I've never been to Sicily, so it would be lovely. That strikes me as an incredibly magical landscape. I know we have, see, in Ireland, we have passage tombs, court tombs, wedge tombs, dolmens, and all of that, but we don't actually have carvings of form. We can see the Cailleach in the landscape. But, we have the mountains are the breaths of the goddess. That she goddesses are already naturally in the natural landscape. I'm just fascinated by, your description of these carvings and how it's almost like a map or a mirror of what's happening up above.
Yeah.
Have they been dated? You know how old they are?
I mean, I don't want to say anything, because the just recently the World Heritage, the UNESCO, as we call it in Italian, just like thanks to the activity of the Institute for Arcastronomy in Sicily, just made it as a World Heritage point. So
Right.
I mean, it is clear that. It is also complicated to do for the archaeologists to make because it's all private land. You can go there, but it's all private land, and it seems that I heard that there are 7 different owners, and it's a bit complicated. But and I don't like to give information that are not precise, but
Okay.
definitely it's been. I mean, it is not. It is one of the places of our ancestors, because of to me it's clear for the stones how you find them, and the shape, and the position of connected to the equinoxes and solstices, and the strange magnetism that you find in some rocks, where apparently there are some half moons, carved in a way. It is so, and I really hope that actually some decent and deeper archaeological investigation could be done. But definitely, it is being called like the mirror of the stars.
Wow.
And yeah, and it's truly a magical place where you have the all seasons from the everything. You have a direct connection to all the elements. Everything. You have all the elements there. the fire of the volcano just standing there majestic in front of you, and then you have the sea, and then you have the mountains, and then it is really incredible. It's my favorite place where I go and watch the full moon, or where I take my students or the people to do, you know, landscape viewing, and, you know, okay, let's have a look here. How it is really my favorite place in the world. Yeah, but anyway, people think about Sicily and think about the sea, which is splendid. But there's a lot more. There's a lot more. So other places that for me are important. I really love caves.
Yeah.
And there are some very ancient with rock paintings. Some caves have been turned into churches. So you can be, you know, it's difficult to be there and really have some silence, but it can happen. You know, I like silence in caves.
Yes.
And one that I really love is the cave in Palermo, where they made that is clear to Santa Rosalia. That is a place of devotion for Santa Rosalia, and it looks a bit like, from my studies, like Montserrat, where I really plan to go soon, because there's you arrive. It's Santa Rosalia is the patroness of Palermo.
Okay.
And the story is quite incredible of this saint. I mean, she was a woman that back in the days, she was a noble, and she refused to get married, and it was, you know, the 16th, 17th century. I don't want to be like tragic. How can you, woman, not get married? How can you not, you know, be following your father's, you know, arrangements and things like this? So this woman just leaves everything, all her riches, and goes to live in nature, and goes to live inside, from cave to cave.
Okay.
Yeah, and in one of these caves, it is said in our local legends, they found the bones of Santa Rosalia, because she appeared during the pestilence to some people of Palermo, saying, "Okay, these are my bones. Just bring them around the city, and I will cure the city from the pestilence." Very shamanic, I mean. And so it was done, and so Palermo got out of the pestilence. So they made, yeah. So it was created this beautiful, you know, abbey, cathedral, church inside the cave. This one of these famous caves, and it is absolutely incredible. Like, you really get in, and you feel like you're in this big womb of the mother. And it is, you cannot. A lot of people get in, and the first thing they want to do is crying, because it's overwhelming.
Wow.
It's like overwhelming, and there's a drop of water, like a source that nobody knows where it originates, and there's this perennial drop of water where they put a cauldron, of a stone cauldron below, and I think always of Kerito.
Yes.
Another aspect of Kerito, and this perennial drop that fills this cauldron of water in the stones, and that for me is also another sacred place. And there are beautiful temples, like from Greek origins, like there's the Valley of the Temples, that is quite stunning, or Selinunte. You walk basically on this in this landscape, where you see only olive trees, where you see just olive trees, and these huge Greek temples that are very well conserved, very well preserved. And you walk kilometers and kilometers from one temple to the next one, and you feel like you're walking sometime back in space. And that is also quite impressive as a sacred, like constructed man-made sacred place. Because for me, at the end, the most sacred place is really the places I find in nature, like the woods and the forest and the volcano. For me, going to a tree, there's one tree that I really love. It's a great teacher called it's a holm oak, Ilice di Carrino. There's a legend of this guardian that apparently is the tree with the longest branches on earth. Like the branches are the longest, the longest branches on earth. Oh. Yeah, I didn't know that. I mean, but I'm not surprised because it is really incredible. And you start walking on the Etna Park, and it sounds as a pilgrimage, because the more you go into the forest, and the more everything becomes so distant from anything, any noise, anything, and you go deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper, and you have a lot of time to think about. a lot of things to think, and just to be silent. And when you less expect it, after half an hour walk is not so much, through spirals and going up, and when you less expect it, you start seeing one branch of this tree, and you get up there and you see this huge dark barked tree with the widest embrace that you have ever seen. The widest embrace, and it's like saying, I've got everything under control. Look, the whole forest, it's all here, all protected. And you get there, the silence is so incredible that when the Etna, the volcano, is erupting, you can listen to the breath of the volcano. Like, wow. And I mean, sacred places. What is better than this? I don't know. For me, of course, for me.
It just sounds incredible. I would just so love to experience that. That just so these branches, they're not just going up, but they're
they're wide. They're super wide. I will send you a picture, because it is incredible. It is incredible. Like I also use I have a plant splay. I have like a tool that converts the plants biological activity into sounds, and I also did it with I don't know if I hear a echo. Everything's fine.
That's me.
Okay.
Sorry, apologies.
No. And once I went there and I put this plants play to listen the music of this holm oak. It's enchanting, like as deep and warm as its embrace.
Wow, fascinating! Absolutely fascinating. I'm just blown away.
Yeah, I have a special relationship with this tree. I when I do my shamanic journeys, I need to go into the underworld, upperworld. I always I go with him. I feel safe, and I even did some flower, some vibrational medicine with its leaves.
Oh, brilliant!
Yeah, so it was quite interesting, I have to say.
And are holm oaks native to Sicily, or were they brought in at some point from someplace?
There's that we have some autochthon hallmarks. And we have, what is interesting is that we have, for example, birches.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have a species. Some of the species that you would find in the north of Central Europe, we have the Sicilian version.
Yes.
So we have, for example, Betulla etnensis, so the birch of the Etna. So where there are some modifications that happened because of the temperatures and the soil. So yeah, there's a. We even have a Taxus bacca. We even have the yew trees.
The yew tree. Brilliant.
Yes.
I just love listening to that, because when I go to Italy, and I've been to Tuscany, and it's like looking at the ash trees, but they're not quite the same as ours, or the elder are in flowers earlier or whatever. It's lovely to hear and discover I suppose the native version, or the of the land, their own. Everyone has their own. Well, I suppose we're talking about Northern Europe, and I suppose the US as well, or the Northern Hemisphere. That each place has its own version of those trees, like people have. You know, the languages, or if you look at English, how differently it's spoken. I mean, you speak it with a Sicilian accent, and there's English and Irish English, and then Canadian English and American English and European English. It's just lovely that there are commonalities, and then there's that extra little thing that makes it special to the area. That's just wonderful. I love that. Betulla Etna. I just that Etna Ethnensis.
Yes. Yeah, and because I work also with the vibrational medicine, and I'm putting the essences of my favorite trees in seasonal plants into essences. I always try to find, okay, what is your personality? Why are you so different? What is your characteristic? And they make me smile. They make me smile, I have to say. Like to see maybe at the birch of the Etna, Betulla etnensis, that is a bit more resistant because it has to go through so much variety of temperature, or maybe it's a bit smaller. I don't know. They just make me smile because of their characteristic. It's really getting to know them in a complete way, because then the characteristics that they have on a physical level, a biological level, then you will find it also on a spiritual level, or like a mirror. So it's fascinating. Of course, we have a lot of trees of other things, like there are characteristics like orange trees, lemon trees, almond trees, pistachio trees, pistachio. We have some very peculiar plants of Sicily. Now,
oh, wonderful, beautiful! It's just, Eric. Before we go, what do you feel about the mummies under the church in Palermo?
To be honest, I've never been there, and I don't think I want to go there. They're good where they are.
They found mummies. We have a church, St. Michan's Church in Dublin, and they found completely preserved bodies.
Yeah.
And then somebody, out of respect, put a wreath of flowers, which changed the air in the crypt, and then the bodies began to disintegrate. So I think that some of them are still preserved. And I always meant to go. I've never been, but it's interesting that we have them in Dublin.
Yeah. Yes, I don't plan to go right now, but so I don't really have an idea. But I mean, even in Rome, there were. Italy, there are kind of mummies in brackets. Yeah. I'm fascinated with the Egyptians, but I have to say, with these kinds, it's not on my bucket list so far. So I'm sorry.
Okay, we've come to the end of our time. It's been such a joy, and we could talk more and more and more and more and more. But my parting question is, what's your favorite season? Now, and of course, I'm asking this, and you live in two landscapes. And
Okay.
what's your favorite ceremony for the Wheel of the Year?
Okay, my favorite season in Sicily is springtime.
Okay.
In Germany, I have to say I love winter with snow. I really like the snow, the quiet, the peace, the white, the introspection. It's just beautiful. Everything is so it's quite different. My favorite celebration, I mean, it's Bielcena and sewing. Like I think all 99%. If you want to have a pool, you know, like I don't know, you know, the death, the rebirth thing, you know, it's yeah, because it's for different reasons. For me, I mean, among all the others that you heard in the 99% pool, is that what I love about Deltana is that everything is the explosion of life of everything that you could even dreamt of during winter, like all the possibilities, all the hopes, all the everything is like after the incubation of explosion of life, creativity, just inebriating completely. So that is the first light after you know, big light with colors and kaleidoscope after darkness, and so Win is the origin. It's really going back to you know, okay, now you gather everything, quiet time, me time, rest time, and you know, going back to what brought you here and what led you there in many ways. So fundamental, like day and night.
So, and Sophia Papaya says, hi, mi amor Floriana. Isn't that lovely? Hi, Sophia.
Hi, Sophia.
That's beautiful. And Ricky wants to know, what's your favorite season for your other home, Glastonbury?
I like my favorite. Oh, there definitely summer, because in summer I can spend the night in the forest without being, you know, without too much on with me. Yeah, I really love the area around Glastonbury. You know, I have a special forest where I like to go and do like 24 hours of stay put in a post, stay put by the tree in the forest and listen. And only in summer that is really,
that's right.
That's agreeable. Yeah.
Well, we need to end, and I could stay talking for hours more. So it's just been such a joy. Oh, I'm going to drop my teapot here. Sorry. Such a joy chatting with you. And I know from the comments of our viewers that they really, really enjoyed it as well. So just thank you so much, Floriana. And I look forward to my trip to Sicily.
Thank you so much, Jim. I loved it. I was nervous, but now I could talk to you also for a month in a row. But I'm waiting for you in Sicily, and yeah, you will see. You will see.
Okay, lovely. So I'm just going to you stay where you are. You say goodbye to everybody, and then I'll just say goodbye. I'll say
thank you. Good
Great.
night.
So thank you all so much for your comments. And I know I didn't get to respond to all of them, but it was just lovely to have you here anyway, and just a joy to talk to Floriana. So we will, after this, we will listen to, or not listen to your comments, read your comments. So I look forward to seeing you next week for another Fireside Chat. So in the meantime, have a good evening, a good morning, a good afternoon, the rest of your day or night until we meet again. Slán go fóill agus bígí slán. Be well.